Chapter 30, Serafina was going crazy. If someone else raped her in front of Theodore, she would rather die. That pervert Alex Martin. Theodore. Save me. At this moment, Theodore's eyes were bloodshot. Not knowing where he found the strength from, he let out a crazy scream, throwing away all 7 or 8 people who were pressing down on him. He swung his punch at Alex, grabbed Serafina from his arms with one hand, and hugged her tightly. At the same time, he kicked Alex in the chest, surprising him and causing him to fall to the ground. He hugged her and ran out. The people behind him chased after him like vampires, surrounding him and beating him up. He fell to the ground, still trying to shield her, not wanting her to suffer any harm. She was hugged tightly by him, her fist placed on his skinny body, seeing his lips bitten white without a single groan. Her eyes were wet. No need to protect me. He was hit by them, heavily collapsed on her, whispering in her ear, I'll count to 3. You have to run out, don't look back. She looked at his pale but still strong face, suddenly realizing that her younger brother seemed to have changed. 1, 2, he slowly loosened his embrace, 3. He pushed her away, shouting run. She was pushed out of the encirclement by him, but she still reached out her hand to pull him along, but he shook it off hard. I told you to run. Run. She was startled, suddenly turned around, not allowing herself to falter and ran out. Serafina, run. He shouted behind her. Her mind was blank, she desperately ran out, to call the police, to find reinforcements. She was afraid of this dirty place and this crazy man. Being raped by someone else in front of her younger brother was more painful than death. She ran out instinctively, but suddenly a gunshot rang out, exploding beside her feet. The reinforced concrete floor had another bullet hole. The shell hit her thigh. The pain was so great that it felt like it was pierced through. Her legs went soft and she fell to the ground. Her whole body was cold. Why was there a gun? This metal shell rattling on the ground is a warhead. She stiffly turned her head, only to see Theodore's head pressed down. The gun in Alex's hand was pointing straight at her, the barrel still smoking. Her heart sank little by little. The unprecedented despair and helplessness swept her away like a tidal wave. Today, she and her younger brother either died, or lived a life worse than death. Alex shook the gun in his hand, smiling contemptuously. Come here. She controlled her limp body, slowly stood up, and faced the deep, black muzzle of the gun, walking step by step. A ray of light from the window above shone down, illuminating half of her pretty face, so white that it was transparent, as if it was sparkling with light. As beautiful as high-quality Celadon porcelain. Alex playfully raised his hand, wanting to touch her face. She silently and calmly turned her head away, avoiding his hand. As a result, her face was directly facing the gun in his hand. The black muzzle of the gun made people freeze. Alex looked at her calm half-face, and for some reason, he got angry, grabbed her jaw, and turned her head to look. What are you pretending to be calm for? Alex, if you have the guts, then fight me alone. Even if I get beaten to death by you, I absolutely won't make a sound. What the hell are you pretending to hold a gun for? Theodore punched and kicked at those holding him, screaming at Alex. Alex's face was full of ferocity. He shot straight at the ground above Theodore's head. Serafina trembled, her brother did not. Alex, you're scared. You. This time Alex's gun was aimed at Theodore, but Serafina was quick and nimble, hitting his hand. The bullet swerved up to the ceiling. She sneered, you're scared. Alex looked at her gloomily for a moment, gritted his teeth, and put the gun on her face again. She suddenly felt her face turn cold, her entire body's nerves were tense. Fear was natural. But she was so scared that she couldn't even tremble, her whole body stiffened like a bough about to break. The gun in Alex's hand slowly moved down, from her neck, past her pretty collarbone, past her torn shirt, all the way down and stopped at her slim waist. Alex smiled wickedly. I don't want to do it, take off your clothes yourself. After saying that, he patted the gun on her waist. She clenched her teeth, saying nothing, doing nothing. In her previous life, she had experienced this kind of humiliation so many times, but in front of Theodore. Helpless and desperate. She would rather die. Theodore was completely numb. He couldn't just watch Serafina being raped by Alex, and he couldn't just watch her being shot to death. How did it end up like this? Retribution? He regretted. His heart was filled with regret. He shouldn't have been so playful, shouldn't have caused trouble, shouldn't have shown off when he was useless, shouldn't have wasted time, shouldn't have made enemies, shouldn't have disobeyed his sister. Too many shouldn'ts. It was all because of him. It was all because of him, but he wasn't strong enough to save his sister. God made him pay for his past mistakes, but why did he bring it down on Serafina? Alex, I apologize. I apologize to your sister. I apologize to you. I apologize to the Martin family. I apologize. I'm sorry, it's my fault. Whatever you do, do it to me. Let her go. Let her go. His tears poured like rain. Alex, let her go. If you're so good, then kill me. What kind of man are you for dragging a stupid girl like her into this? If you have the guts, then kill me, kill me. Alex snorted in disdain, looked at Serafina again, and repeated once more, I don't want to do it myself. She looked up at him, her eyes calm to the point of fear. Her voice was light, but also had an unusual weight. Sorry, I don't want to do it either, you shoot. Ah, how ridiculous. At this moment, whether it was her or her younger brother, if they were to live, it would be worse than death. Is this what is called fate? Alex was startled, suddenly feeling scared. He had always thought that the Beaumont family's nephew Theodore had no future, and the Beaumont family's new niece Serafina was weak and useless, but now, he discovered that it seemed that was not the case. Moreover, if these two people were released today, the Martin family would definitely have planted the seeds of disaster. Unconsciously, he raised the gun, pointed it straight at Serafina's clear eyes, and praised, such beautiful eyes have to be destroyed, what a pity. She silently looked at the deep, dark muzzle of the gun, which exuded a strange breath of death. Her body was cold, her mind was blank, but she could do nothing. Just like in her previous life when she fell from the top of the tall building, she actually did not want to die, but she knew very clearly that no one could save her. Despair was truly a terrifying feeling. Her body was cold, she saw Alex's finger start to pull the trigger, her heart immediately jumped to her throat, as if it had stopped beating. She was so scared, she instinctively covered her face. The sound of the gun exploding above her head was like thunder, echoing throughout the deserted warehouse. The aftershocks passed, the world was dead silent, only the sound of her heartbeat was very fast and clear, proving that she was still alive. She covered her face, her hands couldn't stop shaking, slowly opened her hands and saw Alex's hands hanging limply as if the tendons were pulled, his gun was smashed. Following his gaze, the warehouse door opened, outside the gloomy warehouse was the bright summer light. Dazzling and painful to the eyes. 6 or 7 men in black t-shirts and camouflage pants, neatly lined up in a row, their equipment postures identical. The muscular arms holding the G-36 assault rifles were in a shooting position, not moving at all, pointing in this direction. It was a type of gun designed and produced by Heckler & Koch of Germany since the early 1990s, put into use in the German army and exported abroad. In front of the men in black was a young man, a shirt over a t-shirt, jeans, completely different from the dangerous atmosphere at this moment. He was also raising his hand, his head tilted to one side, one eye squinted and one eye closed. The eyes under his loose hair did not show any emotion. It seemed like he fired. But he didn't have a gun in his hand. He just pointed it to one side. Someone behind him had already aimed and fired a bullet. Serafina looked at the series of gun muzzles opposite, feeling that this seemingly indifferent young man was extremely dangerous. When she looked over, the entire gun stock in Alex's hand was also shot to pieces like sauce. The young man seemed to have hit his prey. At the same time he retracted his hand, opened his eyes wide, raised his head, and slightly curled his lips. She gaped, what was Harrison doing here? The group of henchmen who were pressing down on Theodore ignored him, all rushed to the pile of goods, in the blink of an eye, each with a gun, gathered around Alex. Alex's hand was not too badly injured, he pulled another gun out from his pants. What the hell was this place? Serafina frantically ran to Theodore, He was able to stand up by himself, but before he could say anything, she grabbed his neck and pulled him into the pile of fallen barrels. They had to retreat from the center of the battlefield, otherwise, two innocent shrimps like them would be shot like crazy. Harrison's eyes that were chasing her suddenly flashed. Unexpectedly, her face was ashen, her clothes were disheveled, her hair was messy, but she was still very agile. She really didn't have the heart to pay attention to him, only caring about how Theodore was doing. Theodore's cheeks were red, his eyes glaring with resentment. He was fine with being beaten by them, but now his sister was strangling him to death. His sister was dragging him away and she was grabbing his neck like that? He was being dragged by her and was about to turn into a giraffe. Serafina saw Theodore was furious, not knowing why he was so frustrated, so she put her index finger on his mouth, signaling him not to make a sound.